I shouldn't have gone. The moment I stepped through those glass doors, I felt it in my bones, that cold, unmistakable sensation of stepping back into a world that once spat me out. The Hudson Grand Hotel was pure old money luxury. Chandeliers like falling constellations. Champagne flowing as if bubbles could erase guilt. I stood there in my emerald gown, clutching a clutch that suddenly felt far too heavy, while laughter floated through the air like perfume I couldn't afford to breathe. Ethan's hand settled on the small of my back, the way it always does when my pulse starts racing. "You good?" he whispered, the scent of his cologne grounding me. His voice calm, steady. Doctor's voice was the only thing keeping me from bolting right then. I nodded, lying through my teeth. We were supposed to be there for business, one of his surgical colleagues marrying someone from the hospital's administration. He'd insisted it'd be good networking. But as I scanned the crowd, my stomach dropped. Because at the far end of the ballroom, laughing with a glass of rosé in hand, was Grace, my sister, the one I hadn't seen in 11 years. She was radiant, glowing in a designer gown. I recognized instantly my mother's taste written all over it. Her hair was perfectly curled, her smile rehearsed to perfection. The bride, my sister. I froze, champagne glass trembling. The room spun around me, the laughter suddenly too loud, the orchestra too bright. Ethan followed my gaze, his eyes narrowing. "You okay?" I didn't know," I murmured. "I didn't know she was the bride." For a second, the past slammed into me the night I stood outside our house in the pouring rain, holding a suitcase and a college rejection letter that wasn't supposed to exist. The last thing my father said before slamming the door, "You're not welcome here, Lauren. You made your choice." That was 11 years ago. I walked away with nothing but the clothes on my back. And now, here I was, uninvited, standing in the middle of her fairy tale. Grace turned, our eyes met across the crowd. Her smile faltered. The same woman who once accused me of stealing her spotlight was now standing beneath a golden arch, wearing everything she took from me literally and metaphorically. I could have left. I should have. But something inside me, maybe pride, maybe unfinished pain, told me to stay. Ethan squeezed my hand. "If you want to go, we'll go." "No," I said, voice steadier than I felt. "I earned my place here. She doesn't get to make me disappear again." But I didn't know that the biggest shock was still waiting, standing right beside her, with his arm wrapped around her waist. Herr Groom, and I knew him, but not as her fiancé, as the man who once saved my life. I couldn't breathe. The groom, Dr. Adam Brooks, smiled as he lifted Grace's hand for a toast, and I swear the floor tilted beneath me. Of all the people in New York, of all the surgeons in the medical field, it had to be him. Adam Brooks, the trauma resident who'd once stayed past his shift to make sure I didn't die of exhaustion in a hospital supply closet 11 years ago. Back when I was working 3 jobs, barely surviving after my family cut me off. He was kind. He was brilliant. He was the first person who ever told me, "You don't need their money to prove your worth." And now, he was marrying the woman who'd taken that money from me. Ethan didn't notice the recognition in my eyes, not yet. He was busy helping our son Noah tug off his tiny tuxedo jacket, whispering promises of cake later. Meanwhile, I stood there frozen, caught between past and present, pride and pain. The applause for the couple thundered around me like an earthquake. Champagne glasses clinked. Camera flashes burst. My parents, who hadn't spoken my name in over a decade, beamed from the head table like royalty presenting their heir. When Grace's gaze swept over the crowd and found me again, her smile vanished completely. Her lips moved soundlessly. "What are you doing here?" I didn't answer, but my expression must have said enough. She turned to her husband to be laughing too loudly to cover her panic. "That's my cousin," she said to the nearest guest. "From Boston, distant side." I nearly laughed out loud. Cousin? Even now, after all these years, she still couldn't stand for me to exist. Ethan leaned close. "You sure you want to stay?" I took a sip of champagne that burned like acid. "Oh, I'm not going anywhere." We mingled. Or rather, Ethan did charming, polite, unaware that I was replaying the night my life split in two. It was 11 years ago. In my parents' driveway. Rain slashed the air. my suitcase soaked through. I'd found out my college fund, the one they'd promised since I was 10, was gone. Transferred, my father said. Your sister needed it more. Grace stood behind him that night, holding her acceptance letter from Harvard. She didn't even meet my eyes. I begged them. I'll work, I'll pay you back. My father's words still cut through me like glass. Lauren, some people are meant to succeed. Others are meant to serve. That night, I became the other. I worked nights at a diner, days at a hospital reception desk, saved every penny. It took 7 years, but I built something they could never destroy, NovaCare Technologies. Now one of the fastest growing patient monitoring startups in the country. And yet, standing there in that ballroom, surrounded by gold and crystal and people who'd once looked down on me, I felt like that girl in the rain again, until Adam's voice broke through the noise. Lauren Pierce? He said slowly, disbelief flashing in his eyes. Lauren, from Boston General? Grace's hand froze mid-air, her champagne glass trembling. Adam, she said sharply, let's not. He turned to her. You said your sister dropped out, that she left the country. The silence that fell around us was deafening. And then, like a match to gasoline, whispers began spreading through the guests. Grace's lies had just met the truth in front of everyone. But I didn't know that the secret she'd been hiding was about to drag us all into something much darker than old family grudges. Adam's eyes didn't blink, didn't waver that calm surgeon stare that once saw through every layer of my fear. Lauren Pierce, he repeated, voice lower now, unsure whether he was dreaming or about to wake up into a nightmare. Grace tried to laugh it off, gripping his arm too tightly. She's joking, Adam. Just a look-alike. Right, Lauren? Her smile was tight, her voice cracking like cheap glass. I tilted my head, letting the chandelier light catch the diamonds in my earrings, diamonds I bought with my own money, not the family fund they stole from me. It's me, I said quietly. Lauren, your old night shift receptionist from Boston General. You could feel the room inhale, the collective pause of polite society sensing blood in the water. Adam blinked once. Then again, you're the one who built NovaCare? Yes. And you're Grace's sister? Grace's laugh came out shrill, brittle. Half-sister, she corrected instantly. From Dad's first marriage. The lie was so transparent it almost made me pity her. Almost. Across the ballroom, my mother's perfectly sculpted face twisted in horror. My father's jaw clenched so hard I could almost hear the molars grind. They started moving that same protective, panicked shuffle I'd seen 100 times before whenever Grace risked embarrassment. I remembered every moment of that pattern. When I got my first C in chemistry, they grounded me for a month. When Grace wrecked Dad's car, they called her brave for being honest. When I questioned their favoritism, they said I was jealous. Jealous. That word had followed me like a shadow my whole life. Now it was my turn to watch them squirm. Adam's friends, all doctors, investors, surgeons were whispering now. NovaCare? That's her company? She's the CEO? Wait, isn't Grace just an office manager at her parents' clinic? Grace's face paled. I didn't need to raise my voice. The truth was already louder than anything I could have said. Ethan appeared at my side, sensing the storm. Everything okay here? Perfect, I said. Just catching up with family. All best. Adam looked between us, between my poised calm and Grace's shaking hand, and something in his expression hardened. You told me your sister was a dropout, he said slowly, his voice cutting through the music. You said she couldn't handle pressure. I must have, Grace stammered. Misremembered? I offered gently, letting the words slice cleanly between us. My father arrived then, stepping between us like a human shield. That's enough. You've made your point, Lauren. Leave before you ruin her day. I could have left, but then I looked down at my son at Noah, clutching his toy car, watching adults lie and break each other's hearts under $1,000 chandelier. No, I said, my voice calm, steady, absolute. Not this time. The ballroom lights shimmered like heat waves, the murmurs swelling. My mother reached for Grace's shoulder. Adam's best man whispered something that made him frown harder. Then came the moment I didn't see coming. Adam turned to Grace and asked, so quietly it almost didn't carry, Grace, what school did you say you went to again? Her lips parted, no sound came out. He asked again, louder this time. Harvard, right? You said you graduated in 2016. Why isn't your name on any alumni list? The room fell into silence so thick it could have drowned us all. Grace's mascara shimmered under the lights. Adam, it's complicated, but it wasn't complicated. It was simple. She'd built her entire life on my stolen future. And right there, in front of everyone, it started to collapse. But I didn't know this was only the first layer of the truth, the prettiest one. The real betrayal was buried much deeper, waiting to be unearthed. The air in that ballroom had turned to glass fragile, reflective. One wrong move, and everything would shatter. Grace was trembling now, her eyes darting between Adam, my parents, and me, the perfect triangle of lies she'd built finally cornering her. The band kept playing some cheerful Sinatra tune, but the rhythm felt grotesque against the silence wrapping around our table. I watched her lips tremble, trying to conjure a lie big enough to fill the hole between us. But my mind wasn't on her anymore. It was back there 11 years ago on the night I was erased. I was 19. The rain was biblical, the kind that made streetlights blur and breath turn to fog. I had just finished a 12-hour shift at the diner when I opened my phone and saw the email. Tuition unpaid. Enrollment revoked. I thought it was a mistake. I remember biking to the registrar's office the next morning, rain still dripping from my hair, only to hear that my tuition had been redirected by my parents' authorization. Redirected. Such a clean word for what they'd done. When I confronted them that night, my father didn't even blink. Grace needed the money, he said. She got into Harvard. You'll be fine. You're strong. Like strength could replace fairness. I remember Grace's face, lit by the porch light, guilt shimmering behind fake sympathy. You always said you didn't care about college, she murmured. That's not what I said, I whispered. I said I didn't need your help. That's when my father snapped. If you're too proud to accept what's best for this family, you can find your own way. But don't come crawling back. Then came the slam of the door, loud, final, echoing through every choice I made afterward. I slept in my car for 3 nights, waitressed, cleaned motel rooms, took a night shift at the hospital reception desk, the same hospital where I met Adam. Back then, he was a resident, always running, always exhausted, but somehow kind. He'd stop by my desk for black coffee and a smile. And for a few weeks, I almost forgot what it felt like to be unwanted. When I collapsed from exhaustion one night, he found me, carried me to a break room, and left a note. You don't deserve to be this tired for people who don't see your worth. I kept that note. I built everything from it. Years later, NovaCare was born out of that same hunger to prove I was more than the girl left behind. And now, here I was facing the family who had called me worthless, standing in a gown worth more than their clinic's monthly payroll. Adam's eyes softened as realization dawned he was remembering too. The girl behind the desk. Grace noticed it instantly, panic slicing across her face. Adam, she's manipulating you, she snapped. She's always been jealous. But the truth had already broken free, and it wasn't mine to control anymore. My father grabbed my arm, whispering harshly, "Don't you dare embarrass us. You owe this family." I turned to him, slow and steady. "You're right," I said. "I owe you something." Then I raised my glass. "To Grace," I said, voice ringing clear across the marble hall. "And to family the kind that teaches us what not to become." The silence that followed was thick enough to cut. Cameras flashed, whispers rippled. Grace's face crumpled into something ugly and real. But even then, I didn't know the worst part, because as I turned to leave, I caught a glimpse of my mother's phone screen, a single message flashing from her lock screen before she turned it away. Transfer complete. Billing adjustments sent. My blood ran cold. Billing adjustments? The clinic's name was on the notification. And that's when it hit me this wasn't just about stolen tuition. It was about stolen lives. But I didn't know that the truth behind that message would uncover a crime big enough to destroy everything my parents had built. The ballroom was spinning with whispers, now the kind that travel faster than truth, fueled by gossip and expensive wine. I could feel hundreds of eyes crawling over my back, weighing my every breath. But I wasn't the one cornered this time. Grace stood there, shaking, the diamond bracelet on her wrist catching the light as if mocking her. Adam's face had gone pale, that careful doctor's calm replaced with something sharper. He turned toward her, voice steady but lethal. "Grace, I asked you something. Why isn't your name listed anywhere at Harvard?" Her lips moved, searching for the right lie. "It was a special program," she stammered. "Remote studies. You know how—" "Stop," he cut her off. "Harvard doesn't have remote degrees in medicine." You could have heard a pin drop. The violinist hesitated mid-bow, the music faltering for a beat before restarting weakly. The crowd shifted, pretending not to listen while every ear strained for the next word. Grace's eyes darted toward our parents, silently begging for rescue. But my mother's face had gone gray. My father looked like a man watching his empire slip through his fingers. I'd seen that look before the night he threw me out, when he realized I'd discovered his secret withdrawals from my college account. Only this time, there were witnesses. Dozens of them. Doctors, donors, colleagues. My father moved toward Adam, hand extended, voice trembling with forced charm. "Adam, son, there's been some misunderstanding." Adam stepped back, jaw tight. "Don't call me son." The words hit him like a slap. I felt Ethan's hand on my elbow, steady, protective. "Do you want to leave?" he murmured. I shook my head. "No, not yet." Grace's voice rose, cracking under the weight of desperation. "She's lying! She's always lied. You don't know what she's capable of, Adam. She's jealous because you married me." Her words echoed off the marble walls, sharp and trembling. But Adam wasn't even looking at her anymore. He was looking at me. "You knew, didn't you?" he asked softly. "You knew what they were doing." I met his gaze. "Not everything, but I know what they did to me." And then, because I wanted it to end the charade, the whispers, the past, I reached into my clutch and pulled out my phone. "Do you want proof?" I asked quietly. I opened my email and showed him the message I'd glimpsed earlier on my mother's phone. "Transfer complete. Billing adjustment sent." Below it, a name I recognized, their clinic's billing manager. Adam's eyes flicked over the screen, his expression darkening. "They're still doing it," he muttered. "Fake billing, insurance fraud. Grace, you told me that was all before your time." Grace froze. "It is. I didn't," but he'd already turned away. The guests could sense it, the shift, the fall. Conversations died down, replaced by the quiet thrill of scandal. My mother whispered something frantically to my father, but he just stood there, his face a mask of fury and disbelief. Adam looked back at me. "You built NovaCare without them?" "Yes." "Completely?" "Completely." Something in his eyes softened then. Just a flicker respect, maybe, or sorrow for what could have been. "You did what they never could," he said, almost to himself. My father's voice cut through the silence. "You think you're better than us because you got lucky?" I turned to him, calm now. "No," I said. "I'm better because I didn't cheat anyone to get there." The crowd gasped softly, like a wave rolling through the room. Grace's knees buckled. Adam stepped aside without catching her. I took Ethan's hand. "We're leaving." He nodded, relief washing across his face. As we walked out, I heard my father's voice crack for the first time in my life. "You'll regret this, Lauren." I paused at the door, turned back just enough to meet his eyes. "I already did," I said. "Once. I won't do it again." And then we stepped into the night air, the music fading behind us, the weight lifting off my chest with every breath. But just as we reached the valet, Ethan's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, frowning. "Lauren, you need to see this." It was a breaking news alert. Federal audit opens investigation into multiple private clinics in New England for insurance fraud. The first name on the list was Pierce Family Medical Associates, my parents' clinic. And that's when I realized this wasn't over. It was only beginning. 3 weeks later, I was in my Boston office sunlight, bouncing off glass towers, my reflection clear in the window when the past came knocking again. Literally. My assistant buzzed me on the intercom. "Lauren, there's a Dr. Adam Brooks here to see you. He says it's urgent." I froze, the pen in my hand hovering midair. For a moment, I considered telling her to send him away, but something in my gut told me this visit wasn't personal. It was business, or worse. When he stepped in, he didn't look like the confident man from the wedding. His suit was wrinkled, his eyes rimmed red, and the easy calm of a surgeon was gone. "I'm sorry for showing up unannounced," he said. I gestured for him to sit. "I assume this isn't about wedding photos." That earned the faintest shadow of a smile, but only for a second. "I came to apologize," he began, "and to warn you." "Warn me?" He rubbed a hand over his face. "The Pierce Clinic is under federal investigation. Medicare fraud, insurance billing, fake patient records. It's bad, Lauren. Really bad. And it's been going on for years." A cold wave ran through me. "How long?" "Since before you left," he said quietly. 15 years. Maybe more. They've been double-charging patients, fabricating procedures for reimbursements, even using your social security number on old paperwork to hide their trail. I stared at him, stunned. "My name?" He nodded. "You were their scapegoat. On paper, it looks like you were processing those claims while you were in college." The room tilted. I gripped the edge of my desk, my pulse hammering. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I didn't know," he said, "until I started digging after the wedding." "Grace," she admitted it. She said she didn't understand what they were doing, that it was just creative accounting. But the investigators aren't buying it. My throat tightened. "Where is she now?" "She moved out. Her parents' lawyers told her to keep quiet, but she's been contacting everyone. Reporters, colleagues, me. She's desperate. She's afraid they'll pin everything on her." I turned toward the window, the Boston skyline glittering beneath the afternoon sunday. Below me, life went on, cars moving, people crossing streets, utterly unaware that someone's world had just gone up in flames. "I don't want to be involved," I said. "I built something good. I'm not going back there." Adam nodded, eyes full of regret. "You don't have to, but the FBI might reach out anyway. Your name's on the records. You're technically a person of interest." He stood, sliding an envelope across my desk. Inside were copies of documents, insurance claims from 2014, signed electronically under my name. My stomach twisted. "That's forgery," I whispered. "Yeah," he said, "and it's about to come out." He hesitated before leaving. "For what it's worth, Lauren, I think you were the only honest one in that entire family." When he left, I sat alone in silence, the city humming faintly below. My phone buzzed an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but then I saw the name. Grace. I hit decline. Seconds later, a voicemail came through. Her voice cracked through the speaker, desperate, breathless. "Lauren, please. They're saying it's my fault, that I forged your name. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I swear I'll fix it. Just, please don't let them destroy me." I closed my eyes. Her words were the same tone she'd used since childhood, not remorseful, just scared of consequences. Ethan walked in a moment later, still in his scrubs. "You okay?" I handed him the envelope. "It's starting." He flipped through the pages, jaw tightening. "You're not seriously thinking of protecting them?" I shook my head. "No, but I'm not going to destroy them either. The truth can do that on its own." He squeezed my shoulder gently. "Sometimes justice doesn't need revenge, just exposure." I looked at the city again, the skyline I'd built my life beneath, and for the first time, I didn't feel small anymore. But I couldn't shake one thought. If Grace's voice was trembling that much, maybe she wasn't just afraid of prison. Maybe she was afraid of something or someone else. It was just after midnight when my phone rang again, the same number, the same trembling tone in Grace's voice on the voicemail. "Lauren, I need to see you, please. It's about Dad. He's doing something crazy. They're saying you'll be dragged into this if you don't." The message cut off mid-sentence. For a moment, I just sat there, listening to the silence on repeat. That hollow click at the end of her message said more than her words ever could. She wasn't calling for forgiveness. She was calling for help. Ethan found me in the kitchen, sitting in the dark, the glow from the fridge painting my hands blue. "You're shaking," he said softly. "I think my family's about to take me down with them," I whispered. The next morning, it stopped being paranoia the FBI actually called. 2 agents came to Novacare's office, polite but sharp, with folders and federal seals that made my stomach twist. "Miss Pierce, we believe your parents' clinic used your credentials to file false claims," the lead agent said. We'll need your cooperation to verify what's authentic and what isn't. I signed the papers. Every page felt like a piece of my past being dug up and examined under a fluorescent light. The investigation snowballed fast, bank accounts frozen, employees questioned, subpoenas flying like confetti. My parents' names started showing up on the evening news. Pierce Family Medical Associates under federal review. I didn't feel satisfaction, just exhaustion. That afternoon, Adam showed up again, but this time, he wasn't alone. Grace was with him, thinner, paler, her once perfect posture gone. She looked like a woman unraveling from the inside out. "Lauren," she said, her voice trembling. "I didn't know Dad was still doing it. I thought it was over years ago. He said the system owed him, that no one got hurt." Her eyes flicked up to mine, wide and wet. "They're saying I'm part of it, that I forged your name." "Did you?" I asked quietly. She hesitated too long. I signed what he told me to. I didn't read everything." Adam's jaw tightened. "Grace, that's not a defense." Grace turned on him instantly, her voice sharp and frantic. "You think I wanted this? You think I wanted to end up like this?" She looked at me again. "You have to tell them I wouldn't hurt you on purpose." I felt a strange calm wash over me. "Grace, you didn't hurt me on purpose," I said. "You did it because it was easier." She flinched like I'd struck her. Ethan stepped in, placing a hand on my back, grounding me. "Lauren's not here to cover for anyone. You all made your choices." Grace's tears fell silently, smearing the mascara that once framed her perfection. "You think you're so much better than us now, don't you?" I shook my head. "No, Grace. I just stopped lying about who I am." Adam turned to me, his voice low. "The agents might ask for your testimony. You don't have to testify against them, but your records could prove they used your identity. Will it put her in prison?" I asked, looking at Grace. He hesitated. If she knew what she was signing? Maybe. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the hum of the city outside my office, that steady reminder that life moves on, even when yours is falling apart. Grace finally whispered, "Please, I don't want to go to jail." Something inside me cracked, but not in the way it used to. It wasn't pity. It was release the final snap of a cord that had tied me to her for too long. "I can't lie for you," I said quietly. "Not anymore." She looked at me as if I'd just pronounced her sentence. Adam reached for her arm, guiding her out. But at the door, she turned back. "You think you're free of this?" she said. "You're not. You're one of us. You always will be." Her words echoed long after they were gone. That night, Ethan and I sat in silence, the TV flickering in the background, headlines flashing with my family's name, my family's shame. He reached for my hand. "You did the right thing." I nodded, though my chest still ached. "Then why doesn't it feel good?" He squeezed my fingers gently. "Because doing the right thing doesn't always feel like winning." But deep down, I knew it was more than that. Something about Grace's call still didn't add up. She hadn't just been afraid of prison. She'd been afraid of Dad. 2 days after the agents left my office, I came home to find 3 missed calls from Grace. No voicemail this time. Just silence and a text that made my heart stop. "Dad's gone. Mom won't talk. Don't trust anyone." I reread it twice before Ethan appeared in the doorway, coat still on, holding our son's lunchbox. "What's wrong?" he asked. I showed him the screen. His eyes darkened immediately. "Do you think it's true?" "I don't know," I said, voice shaking. "But if it is, something's gone terribly wrong." By morning, the news confirmed it. Dr. Richard Pierce, my father, had vanished the same night. Federal investigators subpoenaed his financials. His clinic was shut down, staff interviewed, accounts seized. My mother claimed he'd gone on a retreat. The FBI called it fleeing. Grace's name was suddenly everywhere: co-conspirator, accessory, potential witness. For the first time in my life, I felt sorry for her. But pity is a dangerous kind of sympathy. It tempts you to forget who someone really is. That evening, my phone rang again. Her name. I didn't answer. She called 3 more times. Then a message came through, voice cracking, almost incoherent. "They're saying I knew everything. They're saying you'll testify. Lauren, please, I didn't mean to sign those forms. I did what they told me. Don't let them destroy me." Ethan stood beside me as I listened. "You're not answering that again," he said. "I'm not," I whispered. "But I keep thinking, what if she's in danger?" He shook his head. "You've saved her enough times. If she wanted saving, she'd have stopped lying years ago." We stood there in the dim kitchen light, me holding a phone filled with ghosts, him holding our life together like it was made of something unbreakable. The next morning, a certified letter arrived. From the Department of Health and Human Services. A subpoena for my testimony. I sat at my desk, the paper trembling in my hand. Ethan touched my shoulder. "You don't have to go." "Yes," I said quietly. "I do." Later that night, after putting Noah to bed, I sat on our back porch with a cup of tea gone cold. The city hummed in the distance, alive and indifferent. I thought about how much time I'd spent trying to prove myself to people who'd never loved me enough to be proud. I'd built everything they said I couldn't. And yet, here I was still letting them live rent-free in my peace. So I did the hardest thing I've ever done. I blocked Grace's number. No message, no explanation. Just silence, my first real boundary. Ethan joined me a few minutes later, sliding a blanket over my shoulders. "Feels good?" he asked. Like taking off a weight I didn't realize I was still carrying. He smiled faintly. "You know, I think that's what healing actually looks like." The next morning, I took Noah to the zoo. He pointed at the tiger cubs, his laughter ringing through the air. For once, I didn't think about headlines, subpoenas, or scandal. Just his hand in mine, warm and alive. But that peace didn't last. When we got home, there was another envelope waiting on the porch. No return address, just my name written in a shaky hand. Inside was a single page. Grace's handwriting. "I'm sorry for everything. You were right about Dad. He wasn't finished. I wish I'd listened before it was too late." There was no signature. Just a date at the bottom 2 days earlier. The same day my father disappeared. And in that moment, I realized the story wasn't over, not for them, and maybe not for me. It's strange. The quiet that comes after chaos. 6 months later, the world had stopped spinning, or maybe I'd just learned how to stand still again. The investigation wrapped up that spring. The Pierce Clinic was dissolved. My father was declared missing under suspicion. My mother avoided indictment by claiming ignorance, a claim no one believed but everyone tolerated. And Grace. She took a plea deal, community service, probation, and the weight of a last name that no longer meant what it used to. As for me, I went back to work. NovaCare expanded to 12 hospitals across the country. My calendar was full, my company thriving, my son growing taller by the day. But every now and then, I'd catch myself wondering how you move on from a family that never really wanted you. The answer came one Saturday morning. In my garden. The sun was warm, the soil rich under my fingers. Noah was crouched beside me in his little sneakers, sprinkling seeds like confetti. Ethan knelt nearby, fixing the sprinkler hose, humming off-key to a Beatles song. For the first time in a long time, the air felt clean. No reporters, no subpoenas, no lies. Just dirt and light and the sound of my son's laughter. The mail carrier came up the path, holding a thick envelope. "From Chicago," she said. "Looks official." I wiped my hands on my jeans and took it. Inside was a letter cream stationery, elegant handwriting I recognized immediately. Grace. Lauren. They closed the clinic last month. Mom moved in with Aunt Joan. I'm in Chicago now, working at a medical coding center. It's entry level, but honest. I got the job because of the internship application you sent me. I know you didn't have to. You probably shouldn't have, but you did. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve it. But I wanted to tell you that you were never the problem. I see that now. You built everything they said you couldn't. You made something real out of what they tried to destroy. I'm learning from that. I hope someday I can make peace with who I've been. Grace. My hand shook as I folded the paper back into the envelope. Ethan looked up from the garden hose. Grace? I nodded. She's trying. He smiled faintly. Maybe that's a start. That evening, after dinner, I sat at my desk and wrote her back. Grace, I don't know what peace looks like for you, but I hope you find it not by fixing what's broken, but by growing something new. The internship was never pity. It was a chance. Take it. Some roots need to break before they can grow. Lauren. 2 weeks later, at a medical tech conference in Chicago, I saw her across the exhibition hall. She wasn't in designer clothes or makeup this time. She wore hospital scrubs, a simple ponytail, eyes clear and focused. She was standing by a booth about healthcare compliance, taking notes, asking questions, nodding with determination. Our eyes met for just a second. No bitterness, no anger, just understanding. She gave a small nod. I returned it. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. Some stories end with apologies. Ours ended with a quiet truce, two women who finally stopped fighting over the same broken past. That night, back home, I knelt beside Noah in the garden again. He was planting new flowers, his tongue poking out in concentration. "Mom," he said, "some plants grow better apart, right?" I smiled. "That's right, baby. They need space to thrive." He grinned up at me. "Like people?" "Exactly," I said softly, kissing his forehead. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of earth and new beginnings. For the first time in 11 years, I didn't feel like someone's daughter or sister or enemy. I just felt free. Because family isn't always who raises you. Sometimes, it's who helps you grow after they've tried to bury you. Some roots you're born with. Others you plant yourself.